have a brief introductory session, just explaining what this is all about, and a few introductions, which will be nice before we move on, after a brief break, move on to some really interesting stuff, and then another brief break before we have some fun and games. So let's start. What is this party all about? So you will find out as we go along through the evening that we are celebrating tonight the launch of a major new intercultural initiative. So we will find out more shortly. So firstly, I say we have invited. Who is we? So Melissa and myself and a few other faces who will introduce themselves in a minute represent organizations in 6 different countries. And we have worked together on creating digital resources that are designed to provide skills and training on creating and sharing intercultural dialogue. So that's quite a long-winded way of saying it's about how we talk about our different cultures, and especially if we've moved or lived overseas, how we explain to others and how we relate to others on a cultural level. So there are 2 important websites that you will need to know about, and I will go through them in a minute. The first one is worldcultures.eu, and the second one is mygreentrainingbox.com. And this whole initiative, and over the last 2 years we've been working on it, is co-funded by the European Union. So what's happening this evening? First of all, we are going to, if you would like to, choose a party hat or an avatar, and then we will go on and introduce ourselves. There'll be quizzes, short break, as I say, and then a fun game. So if you would like to enter into the spirit of the party, great. Okay, we're all sorted. Okay, so this section really is just a few words of introduction. So what I'd like you to do, please, when I say your name, is if you would introduce yourself and, if it's relevant, your organization. And the most important thing is, have you ever moved overseas? Have you ever lived or studied in another country? And what do you remember about that experience? What was the most interesting thing, the most challenging thing? So I'm Penny. I work for Community Action Decorum in Hemel Hempstead in the UK. I lived in Stockholm as a small child, and I was quite young, so I don't remember a huge amount, but I do remember that the neighbours in our apartment block thought that the English family who lived there were very strange because we always had our windows open, and apparently people at that time, when I was young, didn't really have their windows open in the middle of winter. Hey-ho.
Hello everyone, I'm Melissa. I am from Turkey, but I've been living in another country. It's been 3 years already now in France. I'm working for my training box as a project manager in Erasmus Plus projects, European project mostly. And I want to share my experience, of course. One of the nice ones I chose. For the bad ones, I kept it for another time. In France, the dessert is always served with a spoon. Maybe it's very not unusual for your countries, but in Turkey it comes with a small fork and small knife. So most of the time I slice my dessert and create pieces and then eat them. Even for serving the dessert, strawberries were served with a spoon and already sliced. And for us, it's mostly like you take the strawberry and you just take out the green part aside. You don't slice them, prepare them like a dish. And that time I was shocked, and I said, like, am I really gonna eat with a spoon? Can I have a fork? And the host of the house that I was invited said, no, you can try to eat with a spoon. And it was a bit challenging. not because when I'm telling the story, maybe it's a bit it sounds like I'm spoiled, but it's in that case, in abroad, when you are feeling awkward in every situation, with a spoon, I was just stuck, and I shared a post and started a conversation on Instagram asking everyone, how do you eat your strawberries? With a fork, with a spoon, or with your fingers? And it was a nice memory, and I think people remember me with like a spoon girl now.
The wonders of Instagram. Thank you. So I'm going to ask Arya Asghari.
Well, I'm Arya. I'm with Die Berater. I'm a project manager as well. And yeah, I've lived in I've lived in the UK, in Greece, and South Africa. And I was actually thinking about the last point, and I think I have to change it a little bit. And it's not so much it wasn't so much a challenge being there, but rather coming back. So for me, it was more a challenge to getting used to being back in Austria. And I think the easiest one to describe is coming back to Vienna and not having the opportunity to go to the supermarket on Sundays. So in the UK, in London and South Africa, or anywhere else, most cities in Europe, you can actually go to the supermarket on Sundays and buy groceries, while Vienna is basically closed for the weekend. So everything closes at 6 o'clock on a Saturday, and then you'll either survive or starve. And I think that was the most challenging thing for me.
Yes, yes, good point. Thank you very much. Madeleine, you're next on my gallery.
And I
Snazzy headdress.
A crone. So my name is Madeleine. I work for the Center for Social Entrepreneurship organization in Sweden, Stockholm. I have lived just a couple of months in California. That was amazing. I skipped winter here and the coldness. Challenging. I mean, there was a lot. I was pretty young when I was there, and I remember being so afraid of talking and speaking in English because, you know, you have native speaking people all over the place. And I remember being so afraid of saying the wrong things. So sometimes I can look back and sort of regret that I was a bit shy when I was there. So maybe that was my biggest challenge, to overcome the fear of making mistakes that we're going to talk more about later.
Yes, yes, interesting. Thank you. I'm sure lots of people will identify with that. Thank you. Thomas.
I took off those glasses and put on my fancy hat instead. I'm a professor in entrepreneurship. I work at the Royal College of Music in Stockholm. I have lived abroad. I've studied abroad and I've worked abroad, not for long times, but when I did my bachelor in nuclear physics many years ago, I was quite young, and then I did 1 year in Brighton in England as a part of an exchange program between Stockholm University and Sussex University. And that was my first time being abroad for more than a vacation. And it was an interesting period for me. There were so many things to learn from that, and it was all also quite safe because I knew it was just for a year. So I always felt that I knew the end of it. But I mean, challenging. There's so many challenges on different levels, but interesting things for me was, like, for example, food. You may think that England and Sweden isn't that far away, but when it came to lunches at the university, it was very different. We were not used to having chips and beans to everything at lunch, which was like maybe not so nice. I don't know. But on the other hand, you always had the option to buy dessert after lunch at the cantina there at the university, which was something we didn't have in Sweden either. So it was both ups and downs. But maybe the thing that I maybe learned, or something that I've tried to bring with me on other occasions when I worked abroad, is that when you're coming to another country, it's so easy to hang with other people that are not how do you say, the other exchange student in that case. I mean, it's easy to get in a group with the other people coming, visiting, or just move to the country, rather than to actually spend time with the genuine British people in that case. And I think that's a natural way to do it, because it's much more safe to hang with people that are also in the same situation that you are, but probably you miss a lot if you don't try to challenge that, if you can. So
Yes,
yeah,
that's a very good point. Thank you. That's a really, really good point. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. I also work for Center for Social Entrepreneurship in Stockholm, Sweden. I have lived in Australia, New Zealand, the States, and South Africa and the Gambia. Not for, well, from 2 months to a half year. And I mean, there's a lot of challenges and interesting things going on when you meet different cultures. So I don't know what to choose. But I also agree with one of the most challenging things. I agree with Arya is to come home, because in Sweden people don't interact so much with strangers. So it's like going into the subway and everyone's sitting there just silent. And when you're used to being in a other country, people are more like, talking to each other. So I often miss that when coming home.
Oh, yes.
But another thing that's been challenging, because Sweden is a cold country, half a year, and we have very insulated houses and 3 glass windows, and all of those countries I mentioned, like Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, they also have winters, but geez, I've never been so cold indoors, It's I remember standing by the oven in New Zealand, having the oven open, the heat. It's like, okay. And
Wow.
Yeah. So
very different.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Hi everybody. I've lived in, first of all, I'll introduce myself. I teach English for academic purposes at Birkbeck University of London. I have lived in a few different places during my career. First started out teaching English as a foreign language, and just thinking particularly, my first sort of big job was teaching in Italy. And I think I was quite struck by how direct people were with me and the sort of questions that they'd ask me, and quite personal. And then when I compare that to my experiences a few years later living in China, I kind of look back and reflect on how direct people were with me in Italy compared to my experiences in China. And I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, I experienced such a cultural shock in Italy, but when I went to China, and I've been there many times, I didn't feel anything like that at all. So I thought that was quite weird.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting contrast.
Yeah, and kind of unexpected as well. But it kind of, looking back, it struck me, how that first experience was quite it had a big effect on me. Whereas being in China, so completely different in so many different ways, and yet I felt very comfortable and very, very much at home there. So
interesting. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Actually, my name is Sabina. I was born in Czech Republic and I currently live in Poland, in Krakow. I'm a part of Polish minority in Czech Republic, so I'm actually kind of used to both nations. But when I actually came to Poland, like live here in Krakow, my biggest challenge was, I think, language, because I was really afraid that I would make some mistakes. So I was quite like, I wasn't really sure, and I was afraid people won't accept me. But now I realize it was quite like, I shouldn't have been so like afraid of that. So, and the second thing is, I was shocked that stores in Poland are not open on Sundays. I don't know why. So you really should like plan ahead of your groceries. Yeah.
Yes, excellent. Thank you. I missed your name. Can you say it again?
Sabina.
Sabina, thank you.
My name is Anita. I'm from Czech Republic. I also belong to the Polish minority. I study management in Krakow, and I am an intern in diversity hubs. So they also invited me here. And I think moving to Poland wasn't a big deal for me because half of my family is Polish. So I quickly assimilate with the people around me. Yeah. I think
Great.
that's
Thank
it.
you very much.
I am Ayşe from Turkey. I am working in WWF Turkey. Actually, I am in UK, but normally I live in Turkey, but I have been in UK for about 2 months.
Oh.
And I learned some interesting things, but it's good because the most interesting things are the species in the nature, different kinds of birds, fox, rabbits. Very beautiful for me. I'm very happy. The other things, yeah, probably language issues. Sometimes languages can be an issue for me, and different culture, and also a Sunday issue in Turkey. Sunday and evenings we can find open markets, coffee shops, bars, but in UK, yeah, evenings a bit, evenings and Sundays, no, you can't find easily. And this is the bad parts, probably.
Hello everyone, I'm Gözde. I'm working for Die Berater in Austria. Although I love to travel, I've never lived abroad. But what I did, of course, is I spent usually 2 months, especially when I was young and when I was a kid, 2 months of my summer holidays in Turkey. And the challenge that I can tell you about is, for example, when you grow up in, when your mother tongue is like Turkish, and you grow up in another country, which is, for example, Austrian, and your second mother tongue is German. Basically, I know better German than I know Turkish, and my Turkish is pretty good. But you start to mix those languages and create a completely new language. And we are speaking this at home, speaking like this with other Turkish people living here. But once I go back to Turkey, I really have to correct myself constantly, not using German words. But what also happens is, living here, you just take German words and take it as it is. For example, Termin in German means appointment. So if you go to a doctor, you have a doctor's appointment, it's an Arzttermin. So we just spell it Turkish and make it Termin and use it in the Turkish language, but there is no word existing like Termin. So when we go back and speak with our families in Turkey and we say, yeah, I've been to the doctor and they gave me a Termin that is 10 days later, and they're just looking at us like, what are you talking about? So we do that constantly. And that is a challenge in itself.
That's really interesting. Thank you very much. So now, well, it says Asia on the screen, but Joanna?
Hello, in Polish, Asia, like Asia in English, it's the same name as Joanna.
Ah, I see.
That's why
Okay.
I have here. I use it, so that's why it's not my Zoom. So, yeah, my story will be short because I've never lived in a foreign country. Quite many members of my family are living in different countries of Europe. All the sisters of my mother, the cousins, not on other continents, but in Europe, in France, in Greece, in the UK. So I was used to traveling to these countries, but never had this challenge of finding my own life in a foreign country. Maybe that's why I'm so curious of your stories and so eager to travel all the time.
Thank you very much. Musrat.
I guess I was born here. My initial studies did take place in Pakistan, so I went back, and then I came back when I was 15. I think for me, the challenge, I would say interesting thing was probably the weather in a way, because I came in August and by September it started getting very cold. And it's the way culturally we will meet people and the way they will meet. And initially I think, oh God, have I done something wrong? And of course, language is an issue as well. So as my language improved, things improved as well. Where I found my teachers who I learned English with great. Like I thought English people are the best people in this world. But of course, when I started work at a younger generation of my age, it was like culture shock. And I mean culture shock because the way they behave, because it was young, 18, 19, the way like thinking, teachers didn't tell me this. I didn't know this. So that was in a way for me, challenging, interesting, but I really learned the real, I should say, English culture there. I learned how to play rummy, how to play the cards, as well as the work. So that was the interesting part of my journey, I should say, there. So
Thank you.
I would like to, but as I said, I work for Community Action Decorum, same as Penny.
Hi, this is Shripurna. I am currently living in Paris, so it's overseas because my home country is in India. So just that I'm a graphic designer here, and I'm currently experiencing new culture and adopting towards it. So that's how it is like for me living overseas while battling with the language barrier.
Right. Well, thank you. I mean, that's one of the things that has come out from all of the conversations, and what you've said is that language has been a challenge. That and shopping on a Sunday were the two things.
So I'm Sylvia. I work for Die Berater in Austria, and I've lived in Ireland for a few months, and it was very weird sometimes how kind and warm all the people were, because in Austria it's kind of we're used to staying with our friends and we don't talk to strangers, not on the bus or anywhere. So I was out with a few friends for lunch, and we were at a nice restaurant, and they didn't have any free tables. So they were a few older guys, and they were just like, oh, hey, you can sit with us. And they were having a little party, and they just invited us, and they were so kind, and it was amazing. And something like this would never happen in Austria.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, that's a really
amazing.
good experience. Thank you very much. But nice to meet you.